It was the fall of 2020, right in the thick of the pandemic, and I had just started driving for a rideshare app. I'd lost my retail job and needed cash fast. Night shifts paid better, and I didn't mind the quiet roads. Most nights, the gig was uneventful, just the usual drunk folks, awkward silences, the occasional person oversharing their life story. But one Friday night in October, something happened that still chills me to my core. It was just past midnight. I had just dropped someone off at a hotel near the edge of town. The streets were dead quiet, barely any traffic, just the hum of street lamps and the occasional flicker of neon from closed storefronts. My app dinged right away, new pickup, 6 minutes away. The name on the request said, Derek. Pickup spot outside a bowling alley tucked into a forgotten strip mall. I headed over. The place looked deserted, no cars, no people, just a few dying bulbs humming above the cracked pavement. The bowling alley was clearly closed, but I spotted someone standing under one of the lights. Tall guy, gray hoodie jeans. Just standing there, motionless, head tilted down like he was watching ants crawl between the cracks in the concrete. I slowed the car, rolled the window down a few inches, and called out, "Hey you Derek?" He looked up slowly, didn't say a word, just nodded and walked over to the back door. No smile. No expression. Just that hollow stare. He slid into the seat behind me without another word. I tapped "Start Trip" and asked if the destination listed was accurate. It was a residential address about 20 minutes away, somewhere I'd never been. "That's right," he said, low, monotone. Not slurred like someone who'd been drinking. More like a flat. Like something inside him had shut off. I tried to shake the feeling. Focused on the road. But he didn't say a single word for the next several minutes. Every now and then, I'd sneak a look in the rearview mirror, and every single time, he was staring dead ahead. Not at the passing streets, not at his phone. Just straight at the back of my head. I cleared my throat. Busy night. Long pause. Just needed to leave. Leave where? I asked, trying to keep things light. Doesn't matter, he replied. That was the last thing he said for a while. We drove on in silence, the road getting darker, houses more spread out. Eventually, streetlights thinned out, and tall trees loomed like shadows watching us pass. Then, just as I was nearing the destination, he leaned forward. His voice was calm but sudden. Turn into that driveway. Right there. I looked where he was pointing. An old house, completely dark. No porch light, no visible signs of life. The grass was knee-high and wild. The siding was cracked and flaking. It didn't look like anyone had lived there in years. "This is your place?" I asked, already uneasy. "Just pull in," he said. Something about the way he said it made my stomach turn, but I did as he asked. Slowly, I pulled into the driveway and parked near the front steps. He didn't move, just stared at the house. "You good?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Wait here." He got out and walked, not to the front door, but around the side of the house, disappearing into the darkness behind it. I sat there gripping the wheel, every nerve screaming at me to leave. I kept watching the shadows, half expecting him to come back with something or someone. A minute passed. Then another. I made up my mind. Ended the ride manually. Put the car in reverse. But before I could move, I saw him reappear, moving fast, almost a jog, coming straight toward the car. Empty-handed, but with this expression I couldn't place. Like he was excited or furious. I unlocked the doors, not wanting to trigger anything by keeping him out. He got in, sat down, and said, "Take me to the other place." "What other place?" I asked. He just stared at me in the mirror. "Just drive. I'll let you know." "I can't unless you add it in the app," I said, trying to stay calm. He said nothing. Just kept staring. I repeated myself, a little more firmly. Finally, he muttered, "Back to where you found me." I didn't argue. I just turned around and drove. Every second of that return trip felt like something awful was about to happen. The silence was unbearable. I could feel him watching me. Not with curiosity or impatience, more like calculation. Halfway there, I tried to lighten the mood. "Rough night. You could say that. You okay?" He paused. "Not yet." I didn't say another word. We got back to the bowling alley, the same sad parking lot with the same flickering bulb overhead. I parked under the light, half expecting him to stay silent and just leave. Instead, he leaned forward again and said, "You ever think about how you'll die?" My blood went cold. I laughed, nervously. Not really the kind of thing I dwell on. He didn't laugh. Just leaned back in his seat and stared out the window. "I think about it all the time," he said. Then, without another word, he opened the door and stepped out. But he didn't close it right away. He stood there, half in, half out, like he was deciding something. Then he looked straight at me and said, "You picked the wrong guy up tonight." He shut the door and walked off, disappearing into the shadows behind the building. I just sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Eventually, I drove home, checking my mirrors every few seconds like he might suddenly be in the back seat again. When I got home, I opened the app to look at the ride. That's when things got even weirder. The name, Derek, was gone. The entire ride had no rider name, no profile photo, no history. Just blank. I contacted support. They said sometimes trips can disappear like that if the app crashes or if the ride gets canceled mid-trip. But I ended the ride. I finished it. That man got in my car. He got out. He spoke to me. They said there was nothing they could do. I haven't seen him again, and I pray I never do. But sometimes, when I'm parked in a shadowy corner waiting for the next ping, I see a lone figure standing under a streetlight. I wonder if one day, I'll pick up the right guy. And that'll be it. Phone out, not texting, not scrolling. Just sitting in his lap. The flashlight was on, angled upward toward the ceiling. And toward me. I glanced back. "Everything cool back there?" I asked, half joking. He mumbled, "Yeah." Then rising and falling a little faster now. My instincts were screaming that something wasn't right. especially not when I'm home alone. I was 26 at the time, visiting DC for what was supposed to be a relaxing week with my fiancée, let's call her Sarah. She had just finished basic training, and I flew in early to spend some time with her before her family arrived for her graduation ceremony. The trip had been going smoothly. We stayed in a modest hotel near the city center and spent our days wandering through the historic sites, the towering Lincoln Memorial, the endless stretch of the National Mall, the cold marble of the Capitol steps. It was my first time in Washington, and I remember feeling a little awestruck, like I was walking through pages of a history book. Sarah seemed to enjoy showing me around, smiling at my reactions, letting me play the wide-eyed tourist. By late afternoon, our feet were aching, and the July sun had drained what little energy we had left. We found a patch of shade near the curb and decided to call a ride back. Sarah opened her Uber app and booked one while I sat on a bench nearby, head tilted back, eyes closed, already picturing the hotel bed. About 10 minutes later, a gray minivan slowed down in front of us. Not parked, just idling awkwardly along the edge of the road. Sarah gave me a nod, signaling it was ours. Without really thinking about it, we walked up. She opened the rear door and leaned in. Uber for Sarah? The man behind the wheel gave a small nod, silent, unbothered. No greeting, no name check. Still, we got in. And that was our mistake. The interior of the van was clean, but eerily sterile. The driver didn't acknowledge us, didn't even glance back. No hi, no, how's your day? Nothing. Just silence as he pulled away from the curb and merged into traffic. I remember thinking it was strange. Most Uber drivers at least make some kind of small talk. But I was tired, my legs sore from walking, so I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes. I must have dozed off briefly because Sarah nudged me gently on the arm. When I opened my eyes, her face was pale, tense. She didn't say a word, just handed me her phone. I looked at the screen, confused at first. It showed the route our driver was supposed to take. The little blued, our location, was veering in the opposite direction. I glanced at her again, and right then, a notification popped up. Your Uber has arrived. Where are you? It was from our actual driver. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. We were in the wrong car. I looked up at the man behind the wheel, still silent, his eyes fixed on the road. I didn't want to panic, didn't want to alert him that we knew something was off. So, I leaned forward slightly and tried to sound casual. Hey, actually we've changed our minds. Would you mind dropping us off here? He didn't respond. Just stared straight ahead, his grip tight on the steering wheel. I caught a glimpse of his eyes in the rearview mirror, cold, unreadable. 10 seconds passed. Maybe less. Felt like a lifetime. He didn't stop. At that point, my brain flipped into survival mode. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small folding knife I always carried. I opened the blade with a click and spoke, loud and clear this time. You're not our Uber. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but if you don't stop this car right now, I swear I'll use this. His eyes snapped to the mirror, locking on the blade in my hand. Then, finally, he swerved to the side of the road and slammed the van into park. The locks clicked open. No words, no explanation. Sarah and I didn't wait. We flung the doors open and ran. He sped off the moment we were clear. Sarah was hyperventilating, trying to catch her breath. I stood there, heart pounding, knife still in my hand, replaying everything in my head. We called our real Uber back immediately. When he arrived, an older guy with a kind face. He listened to our story, nodding solemnly. You're lucky, he said. This has been happening a lot lately. Fake drivers picking up tourists, especially around the monuments. Some people never made it back. That last part hit me like ice water. We filed a report with the police that evening. Gave them all the details we could remember, description of the driver, the car, the route he took. They took it seriously, but we never heard anything back. Not a word. To this day, I don't know what that man had planned. And honestly, I don't want to know. But I learned a terrifying lesson that day. Always check the license plate. Always ask the driver's name. Don't assume. Don't let your guard down just because you're tired or in a hurry. Because sometimes, the ride you think is taking you home is heading somewhere else entirely. That was another true story. If you're still watching, you're one of the brave ones. Most don't make it this far. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell because the next horror stories drop soon. Stay scared. Stay safe. We'll see you in the dark.